I'm Alex C. with Bird Law Group. Welcome back to the Bird's Eye View. We are here today with Morgan Lyndall, a good friend and colleague of mine, and we are doing an afternoon episode of Give 'em the Bird so that we can, well, without judgment, I guess, at this point, have cocktails.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It is. It is. Thanks so much for being here with us today. Morgan, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Do I need an introduction?
Probably not. I mean, quite frankly, but
Morgan conceited.
Morgan is a plaintiff's personal injury attorney, and tell us a little bit about your practice and where you work.
So I work at Flanagan Law. We are based up in Sandy Springs. I live in Midtown. I work at home 3 times a week, 2 times a week. It varies from day to day. But love the flexibility, so shout out Brendan. Thanks for being a great boss. We take kind of all sorts of personal injury cases, except basically med mal. Most med mal we tend to kick out to folks like Alex over here. You don't want a jack of all trades, you want a master of one sometimes. And med mal is especially
for med mal.
Especially important for the master of one. But we focus basically on wheels cases, I guess is the best way to put that. Whether it's a pedestrian hit by a car or 2 vehicles colliding or a trucking wreck, anything that involves wheels. Additionally, I prefer static defect premises cases. That means, not your puddle on the ground, not your slip and fall, but rather there's some sort of defect that has been there for a while, and the property owner should have had notice of that for some reason, whether it's a code violation or something otherwise. So
like a missing handrail.
Yeah, missing handrail.
Maggie and I did a case like that one time.
We had one recently where the client was renting a place and had, it was the only ingress and egress of his house. So typically you have a prior traversal rule. So if you've gone past the defect before in and out, like let's say at the store, and there's something in front of you, and you've passed it successfully before, it typically would bar your ability to recover. There's definitely some caveats to that, so like always check with an attorney before
That's
you
why
just
you should
decide.
call a lawyer.
Yeah, so there's always ways around it, and it's very fact specific, but as a kind of a general rule, prior traversal is what we look for. But
and traversal means just walking past it. Morgan's talking legal speak.
Yeah, sorry. One of the major exceptions to a prior traversal rule is when it's your only ingress and egress out of a building.
You can't get in and out otherwise.
Yes, thank you. She's my translator over here.
My family's gonna get a kick out of this because I'm never the one. They're like, Alex, can you please talk like a human and stop talking like a lawyer at dinner? Like, can you please?
So anyway, that's if you want to hit the Google highs, it's ingress egress. But this was his only way in and out of his apartment. He let his landlord know that the handrail was loose, it was shaking, and they didn't fix it. So he was coming out of his house. He tripped going down the stairs, which is why you have a handrail, and he grabbed the handrail, and as he grabbed it, he pulled it off the wall, fell down the stairs, and ended up having I think 15-20 stitches, pretty gnarly cut to his head, and decent concussion head injury. So I remember talking to the adjuster on that one, and initially they offered nothing pre-suit, and I was just like,
are you joking?
Do you want to reconsider, or because we're gonna sue your property owner? We sued them, and funny enough, the property lines up there, it was up in North Georgia outside the metro Atlanta area, and the property lines up there it was hard to tell who was who. So we ended up sending a letter to one property owner saying, hey, we think this is your property, give us your information. And they called us and they said, hey, that's not us, it's the property next door.
What county were you in?
Whitfield, so Dalton.
Yeah.
So while I had him on the phone, I said, do you know anything about the condition of the property? And so while I made that mistake, turned them into kind of a fact witness, and they were like, yeah, it's gone downhill ever since it changed hands. They don't do anything over there.
I have a question. When you get on the phone like that and you kind of stumble into an accidental fact witness, right?
Yeah.
Do you hit record?
Yes, absolutely. Well, so the first thing is make sure they're in the state, right? Because if they're in the state, you're single party, right?
So you don't need to get the other person's consent to hit record.
Yeah. So absolutely, always typically record any witness interview. It's work product as an attorney, so you can withhold it. You have to privilege log if you're withholding it. So you got to let the other side know you've interviewed this person and let them know that they are a potential witness. But you don't have to tell them the substance of the interview. At least that's my take on it. And if they challenge your,
it sounds reasonable to me.
I would agree. But so I always hit record. And then if they're not in the state, I believe the federal law is one-party consent. So as long as you're in another state with one-party consent, you can still record. But like definitely make sure that you are calling between two places where you have the legal ability to record.
I've always wondered that because, actually before we get too far, one thing that we like to do at the beginning of the podcast is we, who do we want to give the bird to this episode? And last episode we gave the bird to Jason Aldean, who was marketing Give Him the Bird, like for real, that's mine. But Maggie also gave the bird to suit makers for females who don't put pockets. And so, look, I'm gonna have to take that back for this custom suit maker who was it, Morgan?
It was Tom James.
Barb. Who made Morgan's suit. She's got pockets galore on the inside.
I've got at least 5 pockets here.
Y'all, I have my microphone dangling between my legs, tucked into my sock.
Yeah.
And she's got pockets on the inside of her jacket.
If you see me at an event and you need me to hold your phone, I got you.
Oh, that's great. So what we were just talking about, the recording. So Give Him the Bird, but I want to go back to the recording thing because we have an issue. I also want to give the bird to frivolous defenses.
Yes.
And actually you talking about the recording is what made me think about that because we've got an adjuster in one of our cases who had a conversation with me pre-suit and literally said to me, look, my people are telling me if your client wants 6 figures, you're just gonna have to sue us. Said it to me. I wish I would have hit record on that phone call because of course now, friggin' he's amnesia, doesn't remember anything. He didn't even know who I am. He's never met me before, never talked to me before. But I mean, that was that just stereotypical so sue me attitude. So now they're defending liability and I wanna give the bird to frivolous defenses.
Yep, what I don't understand, my theory on jury trials is that most juries, regardless of conservative or liberal venues, the most reasonable person is going to win the day. So when you're unreasonable, that's what loses you to the jury. Again, this is all opinion, but we just had a case where they had some pretty good defenses. Our client had arthritis. She had previously applied for disability based on back pain and arthritis, and was denied for it. The court allowed that in. Whether that should have come in is neither here nor there. But despite that, I think they lost the jury when they asked for a defense verdict.
Didn't even give him like a
Didn't even say pay her medical bills. Don't give her anything more. Give her $10,000. Don't give her give her 0. And I think that the
assholes,
right? I know. And I think that if they would have thrown 10 out there, if they would have thrown medical bills out there, maybe the jury still sides in our favor, gives us more than that, but they probably don't give us what they give us.
Right.
And we don't trigger an offer of judgment and we don't get to file. And the other fact of the matter is because they asked for a defense verdict, we filed a 915-14 motion based on frivolous defenses. Because they're sitting there, go ahead and dispute the amount of her pain and suffering. But if you're not going to depose my client's doctors, and if
they didn't depose any of the doctors,
didn't depose.
Did
the
they
doctors,
have a medical doctor?
Nope,
expert?
not going to bring in an expert. You're just going to say, don't believe this woman, and don't believe her doctors, and don't believe the medical records. Ugh, we're all colluding. It's just like you pay us the medical bills. But if you're going to ask for a defense verdict and the jury's not going to believe you, like in my opinion, that's a frivolous defense. Like, come and bring some evidence, just a smidge of evidence. Depose the doctor and call into question his bias, right? to me, that's enough to win you the day on asking for a zero verdict, even if the jury gets you.
Put a hole in causation, or try to, right?
Yeah.
At least
I mean,
ask.
their attempt was the previous arthritis and stuff.
But they didn't ask any doctor about
exactly. So
and a lawyer's argument isn't evidence.
Exactly. And luckily, we had a good jury, DeKalb County, which is also another funny story. This is the John Ossoff jury.
Oh, so a little backstory as to why I even know this story. Morgan started a text thread. How long ago?
I don't know.
It's been a while, because that thing's been going. It's hot.
Yeah.
But there's only 4 of us in it, right?
Yeah.
And it's a safe space for when we're frustrated or something funny happens. And we get a shot of, it was just the jury veneer list, right? Like your pool. And it said John Ossoff.
It said Thomas J. Ossoff.
Yes.
And then
you
so I gotta tell the whole story.
I can't even.
So
you should.
Yeah.
You should.
So we're in Judge Wong's chamber or courtroom in DeKalb County. And for those of you who have not been in front of Judge Wong, he runs a tight ship.
He does.
And
he is no nonsense in his courtroom.
Precisely. And so some judges will give you your jury panel the day before, sometimes the week before.
Or give you some time with the sheet or something.
Or
Yeah.
We did not get much time with the sheet. I think it was probably like 45 seconds to a minute and a half. So
and usually these sheets have 45 to 60 people's names on them and some basic demographics.
Yeah, so we had a panel of 30, so it was probably like an 8-page document, and it's got, like she said, name, age.
Been on a jury before.
Yeah,
Are you married?
Sex, married.
What do you do?
Yeah, profession.
And what does your spouse do?
Your where you live in the county.
Because we're supposed to be able to judge jurors based on their occupation and where they live, but we have to. I mean, it is what it is.
So we get it, and I'm like quickly scanning it, and I flip to page 2, and I see Thomas J. Ossoff, and I'm like, I'm in DeKalb County.
This feels a little familiar.
Right? So then my eyes look down to the profession part, and it just says elected official, and I go, oh shit.
This is John Ossoff.
Yeah. And then as soon as I realize that, I go to alert everyone else in the courtroom, including defense counsel, and I'm like, hey, does everybody see who juror number 8 is? And then as soon as that happens, the doors open, and they're leading the jury in, and lo and behold, it's John Ossoff looking like he's ready to debate David Perdue with his lapel pin and his tie and his hair. And he's
super perfect. It doesn't fly around like mine does ever.
Right. Yeah. And he sits down in the front row, and I'm trying not to make eye contact with him, and inevitably I am.
Well, and he may have just heard, does anybody see you during
So, we questioned him, and I think examined him for maybe an hour and a half, and then we picked our jury, and both sides agreed to let him be. So the funny part about that
of that happens.
Well, and first and foremost, State Farm wanted confidentiality.
As to?
So after we get the verdict in that case.
They wanted confidentiality on a verdict?
On a $44,000 verdict. $44,000.
And confidentiality.
Yep. And
by the way, our court system is a public forum.
Yes.
Last time I checked.
So in that case, the highest offer they made was $5,000. Like I said, our client's bills I think were a little over 16. And so you can't in good conscience settle that case, especially when simple negligence, meaning negligence is duty. You have a duty to drive your car well to folks on the road. You've breached that duty by hitting somebody, rear-ending them. And that breach causes an injury, right? So you have 4 elements. Simple negligence, they admit that they had a duty and that they breached the duty. But they're disputing whether or not their breach caused the injuries and how much your damages are.
Which is the whole kit and caboodle being liability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the first 2 parts were admitted, and despite that, and again, it goes back to well, if you're not gonna depose our doctor and at least try to poke a hole in the treatment she got and the reason for it, at least say give her the meds. And
yeah, I mean, why didn't you? Was it a 25?
Yeah, it was a $25,000 policy.
Dude, at least offer the 16.
And so, like, at least offer the 16. We had sent an offer of judgment for the 25,000, and an offer. I'm sorry, it's so offer of judgment, offer of settlement. The court interchanges them. So for all of you who think that it's somehow incorrect to call an offer of judgment,
yeah, I'll give those people the bird too, because they're interchangeable in my own internal files. Okay, it is what it is. It's a 9/11/68.
Yeah,
it might be.
I'm citing the correct statute, so f*** you.
Yeah. I should do podcasts with Bourbon more often. There's been a lot of F-bombs. I feel more like myself right now. I don't know what that says about me as a person.
Loosey-goosey, huh?
Woo!
Yeah. But so $25,000 offer of settlement. And what that basically says is, hey, we'll offer to settle the case for $25,000. But if we don't, and we have to try it, and we get a verdict, and that verdict is more than 125% of the offer, which in that case, I think that's $31,500.
Don't ask me to do math.
Yeah, I think it's $31,500. It might be 32, but I think it's 31.
25% more than what you were going to let them settle for, yeah.
And you can ask the court, well, the court must award your attorney's fees. So we got a $44,000 verdict, easily triggered it. But the funny, I think, part about it, and the part that I think needs to be talked about more, is that my client, she did not want to try that case. She was scared to try that case. She was scared to be hung with a zero, and she was scared that she was like not going to end up with anything. And the wreck happened, I think, in 2018.
And it took?
And it took till 2024 to get it done.
So
because the client didn't want to try it and was scared to try it, like we reached out and we said, hey, like we'll even like lower our offer to 24. What can you respond to? And they were like, we have 5. And so we were literally forced to try the case.
Put 5 on it?
Yeah, right. I'd have 5 on it.
Is that the right number in that song?
Yeah, it's 5.
Yeah,
it's probably like $15.99 now.
Yeah, inflation.
Yeah. Anyway,
State Farm doesn't know what that is apparently.
No, they don't. But the point of that is, and I think it underlies the fact that 9/11/67.1 has been changed, and a lot of my bad faith cases are these small, modest but meritorious.
I love when you use that terminology.
Modest,
you used it at the retreat.
Modest but meritorious, meaning that it's not, nobody's catastrophically injured, but like pain is pain and injury is injury, and you're entitled to what you're entitled to under law, and it's not making a mountain out of the molehill. It's getting what you are entitled to, and getting what the law owes you.
Well, and quite clearly, 12 jury members believed that your client was owed $44,000.
Yeah.
And I think it makes sense that you should be allowed to recoup your attorney's fees. She shouldn't have to pay those out of the $44,000.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing about it is then on top of that, because we had sent after an unliquidated damages demand, there's an act in Georgia called the Unliquidated Damages Act, and I don't remember that statute off the top of my head. It's like 5112.
14?
14, I think it is 14.
51, 12, 14. If Maggie was here, she would know.
Yeah, but
she's the one who always corrects me because I transposed the last 2 numbers.
But takes the prime rate, adds 3%, and then after the 30th day, if it's not accepted, you can start adding prejudgment interest.
Which at some point, it might be right now, it's up to like 11.5%.
Yeah, it's 11.5% right now. So
send those offers.
Yeah, I send them often, and people are always like, well, why is your number going up? And what I don't get about...
Because my expenses are going up.
Well, and my point is every time, and if you're a defense lawyer listening to this, anytime I send you an offer of judgment, especially early in a case, I intend to settle the case for that amount or above. Because if you don't accept it, I've set my number that I think we're going to be able to get at trial. So
well, that's the strategy behind those, right?
Exactly, and it's I've had defense firms who shall remain nameless but defend State Farm, who've said that that's we now have an incentive not to settle the case. Well, if we're going and we're able to get 12 jurors to give us 125% of the offer that we put, how are we not intending to settle the case?
I don't know. I'm a little confused by that statement alone, because the statute's purpose, right? Okay, and we're sessions happening at the beginning of the year, right? And so these statutes are going to be talked about, and the quote unquote like nuclear verdicts and runaway juries and all of that nonsense, because it's not what it is. The reason we get numbers that we get, and the reason we take cases to trial, is because of statements like that.
Yeah, and
because that statute is to encourage people to settle.
And the fact of the matter is we sent it for 25. The case would have settled 4 years ago for $25,000, and they ended up paying us $101 after the prejudgment interest, and then we settled for the attorney's fees. So,
I mean, I guess on one hand, for my clients, I want to say insurance companies start paying attention to these offers and start taking cases seriously. But on the other hand, try me. Because
what irritates me is when I send an offer of judgment and then we get into a case and we've taken some depositions and they're like, well, you won't come off your prior offer. And it's like, well, but that's the point of the statute. I'm telling you what I think I can get at trial. You chose to balk at it. So now I've had to put in work, and now that number's gone up if you want to get it settled.
Well, and now
So
my clients incurred attorney's fees. I've incurred expenses, which, by the way, attorney's fees and expenses come out of a total jury verdict.
Yep.
And so if you can settle it early, that's more money in the client's pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that, because it also, that attitude, I think, disincentivizes people to settle or to show their true, I guess, bottom line at mediation, because the other side always wants to beat you off of it.
Yeah.
They always feel like they can get a deal. I'm like, this is not a flea market.
And I've definitely gone into mediations and had the other side be upset with the fact that like my number's gone up, and it's like, I don't like, do you not understand the purpose of the statute? Like, I sent it because it's a number that I feel confident in, that my client feels confident in. We've looked at the evidence. We think that it's very obvious you should accept that number, and when you don't, and then you depose my client and it turns out that I'm right, and you want me to come off the number, I'm not going to come off the number. It's just, it's a disservice to my client. I just don't understand it.
You know, and maybe it's not just frivolous defenses, but just people who think they're above the law. And on that point, I want to ask you, and depending on how you respond to this answer, maybe this stays in this and maybe it doesn't. How do you, as a personal injury lawyer, feel about lien doctors?
I feel like it's a necessary product, right? Like, until we fix the healthcare system in this country, it's capitalism, right?
So a lot of that has gotten bad press recently, right? Like, well, not recently, over the last few years. And defense firms want to say that if a doctor is funding a patient who has a civil case, is funding their care or advancing the cost of their care, that it must not be legit, right? And I think that might be true sometimes, but like, it's necessary, right? I mean,
so I had a client who was a defense lawyer, doesn't do specifically insurance defense, but works at, a firm that dabbles in it. And, I was talking to them, and initially I said, you have health insurance, obviously. You have good health insurance. And it turns out the health insurance wasn't that great. I think the deductible was like $7,000, $8,000, right?
Dude,
so the point
I'm a small ass firm, and my deductible's smaller than that for my people.
Exactly. So, but the point is that they were going to have to come out of pocket and pay co-pays every time they went to the doctor.
And they're probably pretty high with that deductible.
Exactly. And they were like, listen, like, I'm not trying to come out of pocket like $3,000 in the hopes of settling this in a couple months. Like, I'd rather just treat on a lien.
Yeah.
And so it's like, until we fix the healthcare system, because half the time when you have insurance, you don't really have great insurance. You got to pay your deductible. That's why I'm getting a foot surgery at the end of the year, because I've paid enough on my deductible that my surgery is going to cost me like $700. So like,
I mean,
I got to get it by the end of the calendar.
We're in August, right?
Yeah.
August.
No.
So August to September is when I start making sure I've done all of my doctor's appointments, because at that point, like, I've paid enough into, hopefully at this point, and I'm like, well, I got to get them done before the end of the year, because what if I need some sort of healthcare or some sort of procedure? I was actually at an appointment earlier this morning. I was at one yesterday. I stack them all in. It's ridiculous that we have to do that, honestly. There are certain lien doctors out there who have just made a bad name for everybody else that is just trying to help people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the bad apple argument, right?
Right.
Like, there's always, like, in every profession, there's always bad apples doing bad things. I mean, the same is for lawyers and doctors and police officers, right? Like,
I mean,
there's always people
sure.
out there that are going to take what you can do ethically and legally and
they're like, oh, I
want
want more. I want more of this.
I've recently gotten really big into watching. There's this add-on to Amazon Prime called the Great Courses series, and it's literally just college professors like lecturing about topics.
Shut the up. I love that. Okay, I got into a period where I would watch, there was this app, I think, I don't know, something where NASA would literally just live stream outer space from like the space station. You could look at the moon.
Like at least I'm like listening to like things and
okay, I would have like a glass or 7 of wine and just watch the moon, so it's fine.
I mean, you can learn about like anything.
Okay, so the great courses, what have you learned?
Yeah, I mean, there's ancient history, great.
I did not do so well in ancient history in high school.
Well, but I guess the point in that is that like everything is interconnected, right? Like why do we have lean doctors? Well, because we're a capitalist society, because our healthcare system sucks, and because we can't. I mean, that's what it is. Is we encourage people to make money.
So like in Italy, they don't have lean doctors.
Yeah, because they have a socialized healthcare system that takes care of that. Same thing in Canada. The way I had one Canadian client back when I was at my old law firm. They were down here visiting their daughter and dog bite case. And so went back to Canada, got a lot of treatment in Canada, and I'm calling, first and foremost, had to get an attorney involved in Canada to help me out.
I was starting to say, how did you even navigate that?
Yeah, no, had to hire an attorney, and she was from Quebec, so they were like French-speaking Canadians, so I was
solid.
Yeah.
2 strikes.
Right? So we got another attorney in Quebec involved, but essentially gave notice to the Canadian healthcare system, and I guess in Canada they have the option of like pursuing what we would call subrogation directly against the tortfeasor. Yeah. So they could choose to go after him, or they could choose not. And because the incident happened here, we also had the option of
against the tortfeasor. They go against the
dog bite, the owner,
bad person, the bad guy, the defendant.
Yeah, so basically that's the way their subrogation works, is like they'll go get it from him.
I think that's exactly what should happen.
Yeah, and so it's
I'm going for my cherries.
You can have your the government's paying for your health care, and you can have your health care. If somebody caused it, let us know. We'll go recover our health care costs from them, and you can go recover your pain and suffering.
Right.
But until that system's in place, like we are on a system of private pay, we're on a system of health insurance, and people don't want to think about having to come out of pocket. People that are living paycheck to paycheck, coming out of pocket $50 twice a week, 3 times a week to do physical therapy.
PT, yeah.
That's an extra $150 a week. That's groceries, for a family of 4. Like that,
What's groceries? That's my kids eating every night. That's, hell, like freaking Everly's daycare. Honestly, it's $2,200 a month. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
And stacking another expense on top of what we're already living with. That's daycare. That's groceries. That's basic needs of everyday life.
And so you have this choice of I can treat on a lien,
right?
And of course, a doctor who's treating on a lien is going to necessarily have that at a higher cost than a contractual rate that they have with a health insurance company. Same thing works with defense lawyers, right? State Farm pays people $210 an hour. Why? Because they have contracts with them. They're going to send them cases. They know they're going to get sued. They know their insureds are going to get sued. They know they're going to have a pipeline of cases to send.
Right. But and if you went and hired one of those lawyers off the street,
$400, $500 an hour, right? Is that unethical? No, it's the value of their services. But they get a discount because they know you're going to have a steady stream of
It's
cases.
almost like a volume discount or a certainty discount.
I think it's a certainty discount. I know you're going to pay my bills. I know I'm going to get this work. Same thing with the health insurance. I have a contractual rate with you. I know I submit this to your billing. You're going to send me a check. Easy peasy, right? But if I don't know I'm going to get paid, I'm taking a risk.
Yeah.
That is capitalism. If you love America and you love the Constitution, you should love trial lawyers.
You should. You absolutely should.
And that's what's so funny to me is that this narrative of there was a politician who spoke to us, and he made a very good point of Republicans are the party of deregulation. Why are we trying to regulate everything now? Why are we trying to regulate how we can send demands? Why are we trying to regulate
Why are we trying to regulate?
You can get in a jury.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Because why are we trying to regulate when you go to trial? Okay, well, even if a jury decides that your pain and suffering is worth more than $250,000, we're going to cap it at $250.
Yep.
Because that's what we
Because
think.
our citizens aren't smart enough to make the decisions. We're going to make the decisions for them.
Quite frankly, it's insulting.
And that is what's so funny to me about this is this.
It's not just unconstitutional; it's insulting.
Yeah, right. Forget the 7th Amendment, right?
What's that?
But it's just funny to me that you have it peddled as a conservative value, right?
Right.
And yes, like we want to protect small businesses. Well, we protect small businesses. Be insured. Don't do things the wrong way. Protect your citizens.
I'm a small business, and law firms are small businesses. I don't see that the divide politically should transcend to whether or not you're entitled to a right to trial by jury. That just should not be partisan, in my opinion.
And
because everybody one day, hopefully you don't, but if you need it, then that's when you're gonna understand.
Well, to me, it boils down to the jury system and venue. That is why defendants have to be sued in their home county. That's what they call home cooking, you know?
That's why I asked you earlier what county that case was in. You said Whitfield. I was like,
you know what? I'm fine. Whitfield's a great county to try.
Was it? We have one up there right now.
Dalton is a great community. I like Whitfield County. I think it's a great county to try a case. It's a much more diverse community than you would think.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think you get a very good jury pool. In
we have several cases up there right now against a. Maybe we should make one more.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Let it get real smoky in here.
Oh.
Did it just growl at you?
It did. I was like, bitch, please. Don't touch me.
It's really finicky. So while we're making the smoked old fashions, I do have to give a shout out to my dad, because this was actually the kit, and there's a photo of it around here somewhere, but the kit was actually of his doing. And I love a smoked old fashioned. I love a craft cocktail. I just think it's fun. I like to cook. I like to create. This is sort of my stress relieving thing, plus the alcohol. But he put together this whole kit, and I said, Dad, I want to do something cool in my next podcast episode. Can I borrow your old fashioned kit? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know that I'm giving this back. So
I mean, I wouldn't.
It's kind of become one with me. I've taken it on 2 different trips with me now, and sorry, Dad. We'll talk about custody of the kit later.
I really love the top on this.
Isn't that pretty?
So did he drill the hole in here and make this entire thing, or did
actually,
it come?
You know, that's a great question.
Is this his doing? Did he buy the grommet and, you know?
Okay. I don't know. Make it smokier.
My smokier?
Yeah. It'll get completely opaque in here, in there, and then you just let it sit. Have you ever been to the Ritz at Amelia Island? So it's where the first time I ever had a smoked old fashioned.
Really?
So if you walk into, is that a trick of the trade?
You moving the ashes around with the butt of the lighter?
Oh shit!
I don't know what I'm doing.
So if you walk into the Ritz at Amelia Island, the first thing you'll smell is what we're gonna smell like when we leave here. And I was like, what is that?
There's also a bar in Macon where you smell like smoke when you leave, so.
Oh.
The Bird.
The Bird.
The Bird's the word.
I feel like I need to go there.
Yeah, have you never been to the Bird?
No.
Oh.
I've only been to Macon once.
Shout out Virginia Josie and Jordan Josie, #Maconites.
I love them.
They are great.
They're really great.
But the Bird is the word. The only caveat is do not wear anything nice in there. You have to immediately take it off and throw it into because it's one of the last places you can still smoke.
Oh, so kind of like Northside Tavern used to be that way, but then they outlawed that inside.
They took the grandfather clause away because of, we gotta.
Yeah, light me.
Okay.
Hit me. Oh, kick it into high gear.
That's right.
There we go. Where are you from?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
So how'd you end up outside of Philly for college?
So, all 5'1" of me thought that I was an excellent softball player.
Okay.
Hindsight 2020, I was probably like adequate. Anyway.
I mean, I applaud you for playing as team sport.
But I wanted to play in college, and because I was only an adequate softball player, I only had a few actual athletic scholarship offers, and they were for like in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee or something.
That's where I'm from.
Oops. Anyway, so
like
I decided,
ETSU?
Yeah. So I decided to go to a Division III school up in Philadelphia, and I had a athletics or a academic scholarship, so that was nice. But ended up going up there.
Did you play all 4 years?
No, just 1.5. I got a concussion my sophomore year, and luckily, like early on, my school was doing the baseline concussion tests, like when you got to school. So they had your baseline if you got a concussion.
Yeah.
So got that. Never got back to normal. So maybe don't hire me.
Oh, please.
But yeah, no, I ended up just
time heals always.
Medically retiring, I guess is the term. But then I became.
Well, you just didn't want to get hit in the head again, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But then I did sports information, which was super interesting because it was like keeping stats and stuff. But you were doing of all those small athletic departments, they're keeping the stats. They've got even Division III.
What's that movie? Moneyball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we weren't that good, but
Jonah Hill good.
We had a really good field hockey team, and I remember I was always filming and keeping the stats, but it was so cold. It was so cold.
No, thank you.
It was incredibly cold. Also, snow, beautiful the first day. Yeah. Afterward, I don't know how many pants I ruined.
Just with
Philadelphia.
Snow?
Yes, because they put the salt, and then it's all grimy and gross, and so the bottom of your pants get all black and nasty.
Nope.
No. So anyway, I came back to Georgia.
It's like bar tar, but you don't have the fun getting it there.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of bar tar, I ruined a pair of shoes in Savannah at the Savannah Lead event.
Really?
Because of we went to McDonough's, and my shoes did not return from McDonough's.
Yeah.
So.
Ruined them or left them there?
No, I mean I ruined them. I kept them on.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. I haven't had a tetanus shot, so I'm glad I kept them on.
There might be bar tar on the bottom of my wedding dress. And that wasn't even from
Only Everly will know in 20 years.
I know, right? Shit. Okay, all right.
Bourbon number 2.
I know, this one's a little darker.
It is.
Right? I like this one better.
It's more balanced.
Oh, there went my crunch. Sorry.
It's very good.
This one's very good. Which one did we use? Fiddlers?
Yeah, so we had Weller's, and then...
I think Fiddlers might be better for an old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just made the Wellers too strong because I went...
I mean, you did pull a lot of Wellers, but...
I went a little
Well, our Fiddlers is our Atlanta brand.
Oh, well, hashtag ATL. That's where it's at.
When I was 19, I worked for Palm Beach Tan. And...
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Worked for Palm Beach Tan.
Like handing out the little Playboy bunny stickers that people put on their hips?
No.
Oh.
Yes. Anyway, Palm Beach Tan, and so part of it was a lot of your income at those tanning salons is commission based.
You sell products?
Selling the lotions,
including the instant tanner ones, right?
Yep, selling the
I had an accident with
packages. You get a percentage of what you're selling. So me being the salesperson I was like, I'm gonna get into character, and so I got Hella Tan, and really there should be an asterisk by Hella Tan, like Hella Tan, and then it's like orange, right?
Presidential.
Yeah, I got presidential tan.
I get it out myself. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm fine with that.
Shit, that's funny.
But I got presidential tan, and I'll find you the photo of me.
I need to see this.
And it's me, Governor Deal, and Senator Jeff Mullis.
Shut up. They are.
And I am orange. Like,
are you in the middle?
I'm the color of that cup. Yes, I am in the middle, doing this. Yeah. It was presidential orange.
So when we were all kind of locked in our houses for a period of time, I was watching way too much TikTok. Actually, I figured out what TikTok was, I think, at that moment. And there was this TikTok about making your own face mask. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna come out of COVID with beautiful skin. And it involved turmeric. That stains. I mean, there might have been tribes, okay? Like people before they had food coloring that used that to turn things orange.
I'm pretty sure that's
Was
how
that
they
a
did
dye?
tattoos. Like, I think turmeric
Okay.
is an
Well, it doesn't
ingredient.
even require a needle to
No.
stain your skin
no, it
orange.
doesn't, yeah.
So I caked this turmeric, raw sugar, flour, I don't know what else I put in that on my face. Like it was like hanging off my face. And I left it there for the 20 minutes it told me to, and I washed it off and I was like, no. No, 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 no. And of course I can't like go to my mom or like run to my family's house. We were all quarantined at that point, so I FaceTimed my mother. I was like, did you ever use that app House Party during COVID?
No.
I was like, Mom, you're gonna have to start a house party. And she's like, what? I was like, start a house party. I need Dad to get on. I need all of our friends to get on. We all gotta look at this together. Something really is wrong with me. And I had dyed my skin orange with turmeric. So, PSA, don't put turmeric in your face mask, or maybe just don't put as much as I did. I don't know. And that's farmer's market. It was legit.
That was some good turmeric.
It was good turmeric.
Organic turmeric.
It's an anti-inflammatory, so maybe it did something.
Yeah, I'm gonna find you the picture of it. What's funny is like it's like an official, like the governor's photographer took it. So it's
You
like,
might be hanging in a
oh,
on a wall
I'm
somewhere.
in like the ceremonial office where he like signs all the. So me, Nathan Deal, just
How did you end up in that photo?
because I interned for Senator Mullis at that time too.
I
What's
interned
funny,
for Nathan Deal.
my nickname was the
Interesting.
tan intern, which is so funny now because I am not tan.
I was like, I can't imagine you, one, working at a tanning salon, two, turning yourself orange.
Oh, I was.
Was it self-tanner?
Yeah, so.
Or was it like those special bulbs or the spray tan?
No, I did the spray tan.
Like the one where you get in yourself?
Well, yeah, so there's Mystic and there's Versa, and I will tell you that Versa is beet based, so it gives you more of a dark red kind of base.
I mean, that's how I naturally tan anyway.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to be a redneck, so my dumbass was like, I'm gonna do Versa, or Mystic, which is carrot based.
It's some Oompa Loompa right there.
Yeah, so.
That's great.
So that's how I turned myself orange.
So other than working...
You prefer turmeric, I prefer carrots.
Well, I mean, I can't even make fun of you because I did it to myself as a grown-ass adult in my own home.
But I made a lot of money as an orange bitch, so.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So other than Palm Beach Tan, what were some other jobs you had?
I worked at a florist down off Cheshire Bridge.
Really?
I did floral arrangements.
Okay.
And I also drove a big white van. So if you can't tell, I'm like 5 foot. And
You're in this huge ass
I
van.
could not see over the hood of that. And thank God I didn't wreck that car because, I mean, these are the things that
Excuse me, I'm coming through with flowers.
you think about as like an attorney after. It's like, I was not trained to drive a large van.
No, if somebody would have deposed the owner.
And I was more concerned about knocking the damn flowers over because they were so expensive. Like, I'm like, I don't care if I hit you. Are my flowers okay?
And heaven forbid you're like heading to a wedding or something.
Oh yeah, up in like Lanier Island.
Yeah. And you gotta go up 85, 985.
Yeah, can't see over the hood.
No.
I'm sitting on a phone booth.
That's funny because I worked for Macaroni Grill in high school, and they let me drive the catering van. In fact, gave me a key to the catering van, and it was a similar situation. I was like, I don't know that I should be, let alone like full of piping hot noodles in the back.
Hashtag negligent training.
Y'all should have trained me how to drive that van, y'all. I mean, I still love the Macaroni Grill bread and the penne rustica.
Yeah.
Amazing, but
No.
driving that van around, just, I'm a horrible driver too, by the way. I mean, it's really kind of a little back-ass word sometimes that I ended up doing this kind of law. I guess I don't do the wheel
Please
stuff that you do, but
Save this clip
as
for
much of
when
it.
Alex causes a wreck and her victim sues her. And
actually, here's a PSA. Get more than minimum limits. Okay? Get more than minimum limits because one, we all live in Atlanta. And about 25 to 30, maybe 40% of the people are driving around in a car that is worth more than $25,000.
yeah, what new car can you go buy for $25,000?
My husband went and bought a Ford EcoSport for $20-something thousand, and that thing looks like a Converse tennis shoe. It is, no offense to any EcoSport lovers out there, but it's about the only one.
There's not a lot of cars
No.
that you can buy for $25,000.
No, there's not.
So.
He went and found the cheapest car he could because his car got stolen, and he was #making a stand.
And if you get wrecked and the person only has minimum coverage and you just got your car and you have payments on your car and you don't have gap insurance,
you're screwed.
Yep. In my like opinion, right? I buy coverage not because I think that I'm going to cause an accident that's going to be of that value, but it's because I am worried that someone else may cause me to be in an accident that might be that value. So that's my perspective on it. Is I've got 1.3 in coverage on myself because, like, if God forbid I'm hit by somebody who has 2550 and it's a really bad wreck, I'm not up freak. And if I don't have insurance at that time, the state or the federal government isn't taking taking it on the chin and having to pay those bills. And so that's the other kind of part about it is like,
I want to be responsible for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If the at-fault party is not going to be responsible for it, is not going to pay for it, who does the bill get saddled with?
Right.
And a lot of the time, it's the general public, right? Like, you have to. Grady has plenty of bills.
Charitable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's all coming from forgiving those debts and comes out of your bottom your dollar at the end of the day. So
yeah,
there's talks about insurance rates increasing. That is primarily caused by the fact that, like you said, every time you drive by a car that is valued less than $25,000, keep that in your mind.
Because this is not going to happen often.
Exactly. Everything has technology. If you rear end a car that has backup sensors.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, like that's a lot of money if those backup sensors, they got to be recalibrated, right? Like, so you gotta take it into a special place. You got to recalibrate those. If you have sensors on your vehicle that are special, they're lane sensors. If your car is in an accident, like, theoretically, those things need to be recalibrated and redone, and that costs money.
Yeah.
And that's money that the insurance company doesn't want to pay.
No.
And I think back in the 90s, I'll double check this so we can run the name, but I think State Farm got in trouble for basically using lesser parts on vehicles when they were repairing it.
It was an OEM. They weren't
Yeah.
using original OEM parts, original manufacturer parts.
And at the end of the day, like, insurance companies are essentially just investment firms. Like, that's all they are. Is like, take your premiums, they pool them together, they invest them in different,
And then when
areas.
something happens, I mean, your health insurance does that too, but then when something happens, they're like, oh, pay us back.
Yep. They call in those interests. So, I mean, everything gets spun nowadays, and I think really looking at the source is important.
So one question I want to ask, and I was thinking about this earlier today. So my daughter, she'll be 3 in October, and she has this thing called a lovey, and it's something she has to have with her at all times. So, like, not all times, but at bedtime and like when she wants to be comforted. So one of the most stressful times for trial lawyers, or I won't say stressful, maybe it's stressful, but like amped up times we have is going to trial. Is there anything in your practice that you want to have with you, or you're kind of superstitious about? What's your lovey in trial?
So this is weird, but so there's a Sharpie pen, and it's purple, and I just like to write with those pens. It feels good when I'm taking notes, and I like the purple color, and I don't know. So it's like those Sharpie purple pens. So you'll see them. They're black, and then there's a little purple stripe in the middle.
Yeah.
Clicker on the top. So.
And that's what you like.
The Sharpie purple pens. Yeah.
Makes you feel better.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just like that pen.
Yeah.
Take notes and makes me feel.
That is
like
much more G-rated than what mine was going to be.
Yeah, no, ironically, mine's not very X-rated.
I went to, it's not X-rated, but that's much more normal. It's not even G-rated, it's just more normal, because I went to New Orleans and I went in the back room of a voodoo shop and had someone give me an envelope of Other Lawyer Be Stupid, is what it's called. And it's like an envelope of like apparently black, it's not blessed, it's cursed, hexed, I don't know, powder, and it's called Other Attorney Be Stupid.
Oh, that's funny.
And the envelope is falling apart, but it has been in every trial bag I've ever had.
Oh, that's really funny. So Bill
got a kick out of that.
A paralegal that used to work for me. I was having a not great time, and he gave me this like black crystal, and he was like, it keeps the bad juju away. And so I put it in my office, and I pointed it at where
the bad juju
was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And that is in my bag consistently.
Did it work? Oh.
I mean, it just is consistently in my bag. So I guess that is also something I carry with me. It's just I kind of forgot about it until now.
Yeah, my other Attorney Be Stupid powder is in there, and then we always have to have Altoids on the table. That's a thing.
Okay.
Because we never want to chew gum, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not allowed to have clicky pens at counsel table. They have to have a lid, because otherwise I will click. I'm a clicker. I'm such a clicker.
See, I unscrew them and re-screw them back.
So that you can't click them? Or that's just your thing?
Yeah, I do that because they'll screw at the top and unscrew.
Anyway, thank you so much for being on today. I've just had fun talking to you, drinking bourbon with you. I'm going to go get a suit. Barb, I'll be calling you soon. Don't worry about it.
You're welcome, Barb.
Yeah, I'm gonna need Morgan to get some sort of referral bonus for that, because she is the reason I'll be calling you.
Give me a free shirt.
And I'm gonna need some awesome lining like Morgan has. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love
You should
that.
see the plum one. Pretty cool lining in that one too.
Really?
So, yeah.
But anyway, thank you for being on, and
Thanks for having me.
Of course. This is another episode of The Bird's Eye View, and please, I don't know what they want me to say. I think it's like, subscribe, hit the buttons below this, whatever it is. Just watch the episode, follow us, and look, if you want to be on the podcast, you want to talk law, life from a bird's eye view, let me know. Cheers. Oh, and go dogs.